Hello, and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And this is Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film, and this week, it's a very special episode.
And this week, we are visiting a brand new superhero and her little superlings. We're talking about Madam Web.
Now, you might have seen the release of her costume on the ocean spray bottle that got leaked online.
Huge news.
Huge, big. We've got to tone down our energy because, we're trying to mediate ourselves.
I'm actually doing a Madam Web impression. I didn't know that's what you were doing.
Excellently
but both
done.
Are the same thing.
Excellently done. It is Madam Web. We're losing our shit.
It's Madam Web time, you guys. Congratulations to all who celebrate Madam Web Day.
Congratulations to Madam Web Day.
Probably just us.
I hope last week that you cuddled up with your loved one on Valentine's Day, got your tickets to Madam Web, and went out and just done did it.
Just done did it. Shout out to anyone who might right now be in the Amazon studying spiders.
If you're in the Amazon studying spiders, nothing but love to you. Shout out.
Nothing but love. You got your movie.
You got your movie.
You got your perfect film.
The representation finally come.
No, the unsung heroes of the Amazonian spider researchers.
Yeah. 100%.
Finally.
100%. We are talking about Madam Web this week. We have been uncomfortably excited.
We went to the very first showing on Valentine's Day.
Every piece of information that has come out about this movie before seeing this movie has made me uncomfortably excited to see what ended up getting made. Mm-hmm. And I think in that regard, it doesn't disappoint, and this episode is quite exciting.
I'm so excited to no longer be watching Madam Web and to discuss Madam Web instead.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay, so it's Madam Web. It is a new movie. Whenever we talk about a new movie on the podcast, we like to give you a spoiler-free review in case you're on the fence about seeing it, or you just want a taste of this episode. For whatever reason, we will give you a spoiler-free review. Then once you hear the theme song, then we will be entering the spoiler-filled section. So let's start with the spoiler-free review. Let's start with the simple question. Diana, did you like Madam Web?
Oh, did I like Madam Web? The words I would use to describe Madam Web are miserable. This movie is flat miserable. And I'm about to insult things in a movie I've never insulted before. This movie is poorly acted. This movie is poorly directed. It's poorly written. The action scenes suck. The editing is very, very bad. The hair is bad, and the costumes are bad. And I don't mean the superhero costumes. I mean the day-to-day wear of the characters.
The human clothes that you bought at a clothing store.
The H&M was wrong somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It does not land. Nothing in this movie works. There is no emotion, no joy, no sadness, no range of human experience is here. There is nothing redeeming about Madam Web except for the 10 minutes when Adam Scott is there. And I need everyone to know that when I say bad things about this movie, at the end, just fill in except Adam Scott. At the end of everything I say that's bad, I don't even want to have to say it every time. So just say in your mind, except Adam Scott. Mm-hmm. But everything else in this movie, the villain, the heroes, the story, the effects, bad. Not fun bad. Not fun enough. Sometimes fun, but really boring in the middle. Really boring in the middle. So this is me miserable. Saying miserable. Andrew, did you like Madam Web?
This movie is a hot bag of garbage, mm-hmm. But I disagree with you. I think it is at least the good kind of bad, where it's so bad it is fucking hilarious. This is incredibly funny, not intentionally. Mm-hmm. I think when we're talking about the Sony Spider-Man adjacent universe of films, Morbius, when we talked about it, Morbius is the boring kind of bad, where it's bad, but it's trying, but it's not making wild leaps, and it's just kind of this is just bad. This movie is just a class on like, how did this get made? What is happening? What's going on? It is bananas bad. And I think that if we were watching it at home with a couple of drinks and talking over it, I think it does actually journey into the fun kind of bad, where it's actually an entertaining time to make fun of it. Opening day in a theater, seeing this for our jobs, not fun. Not at all fun. Vibes are bad.
I don't want to ruin the experience for everyone else in the theater by being like loud and obnoxious about how bad it is. But I agree, at home would be a fun viewing.
I think that if this is out to stream at home,
you go in knowing.
Yeah, if you don't go anywhere. If this comes to you and you have some friends and a fun night where you want to just yell at a screen involved, this is a good time because it is a train wreck of a movie, top to bottom, except Adam Scott. I agree with you. We'll also add that addendum to any of the criticisms that I have.
All right. We both have a caveat of except Adam Scott.
We can have like a little moment during this episode where we give like an accept Adam Scott corner where we just hand him an award and kind of move forward. But every single job in making a film failed.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's wildly bad. If the CW made a Madam Web show, this would still be bad. Like, if this was the CW's Madam Web, I'd still be like, wow, what a shit CW show. The Flash is better. Arrow's better.
Yeah.
Gotham Knights might have been better.
Yeah. This would be a bottom tier television show. I
am
agree.
going to say something controversial, though.
Lay it on
For
me.
a theater experience, because you said this is fun at home with people. For a theater experience, I actually think Morbius is better.
Interesting.
I think this is worse than Morbius.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Well, we agree, though, it is miserably bad. We do agree with the quality of it.
It is miserable. I have done a fun little thing that I have gotten ready. I'm worried that it's so bad that we're going to say the word bad and miserable too often.
Okay.
I have gone to thesaurus.com and I've printed off every synonym for not good.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to vary up.
Try to mix it up a little bit.
I'm going to go down the list as we go through. So it's not so because, sometimes when we're negative, it's like, oh, they've said the word bad so many times. So we're going to mix it up right off the top. I'm going to say this was atrocious.
Atrocious is correct.
Atrocious is where we're going to start.
Yep. Let's start with atrocious. This is good. Everyone failed. Everyone failed.
Except Adam Scott. I'm kind of glad everyone failed. I'm glad no one put a really good effort into something and then this movie bombed.
There's something about the consistency to that. To be like, oh, none of you showed up to work today, huh?
Yeah, no one did anything on the group project.
Yeah.
You know how normally one person does the entire group project? No one showed up to give the presentation on the team.
Often when we're trying to be kind to a bad movie, which oftentimes on this podcast we'll just dunk on a bad movie. Sometimes we'll have a little window where we try to be kind, where it'll be like, making movies are really hard. Thousands of people and millions of dollars are involved. There is so much going on for so long. It is impressive that any movie gets made. Not this one.
Not impressive.
It's not impressive that this movie got made.
They set this movie in 2003 as though we would be like, well, for 2003, it's good. And it's not. 2003 had better superhero movies.
This is rough. Yeah, this is rough. All right, so we're both on the same wavelength here. We both agree it's bad. I think it's a little funny. You don't find it funny.
I would say it's awful.
You would say it's awful. It's gone from bad to atrocious to awful. We're working our way through the thesaurus. So we're on the same page there. Can it be spoiled?
No. God, no. Especially if you've seen a trailer. Wow, I knew everything that was going to happen in this movie. Yeah, so no, it can't be spoiled. Unless you were wondering how bad it is, and it's this bad.
I also agree that it can't be spoiled, with the exception of like two things which are not twists, and they're more just that's not how movies work. Like, it doesn't catch you off guard. It's just not how movies work. It's
so
just not how any of it works.
They've come up with some new shit.
They've come up with new ways to catch an audience off guard. So in that way, I think you could be spoiled, but not in any real way.
I don't feel very spoiled.
Nah, I think we'll be...
I feel ruined. but not spoiled.
I think we'll be just fine. So before we get into, though, the spoiler-filled section, we do want to take a moment to thank our sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at tpublic.com.
tpublic.com, the absolute opposite of Madam Web, where you're going to find high-quality, nice stuff that people worked really hard on and succeeded at.
And other people love it, and it's going to be fantastic.
You're going to want to buy it and spend money on a design made by an indie artist on either a t-shirt or a tank top or a hoodie or a phone case or a mug, or like you're going to find something really cool that you love and you're going to be able to put it on pretty much anything.
Cool, unique designs. One that I am liking this week. I've been rewatching a lot of Star Trek. I'm liking one that just says "energize" and it's a cup of coffee because that energizes you and it's kind of it's got the little it's energized. It's got the little beam marks.
It's a beam.
The little beam marks in there, and I like also that the shirts are all customizable, so you can get it on whatever kind of color and background and fabric that you like. So that's really nice. That's what I'm digging this week.
I'm digging one of our shirts. The day we are recording, they announced the cast of the new Fantastic Four movie, so I've got a Johnny Storm shirt. I'm a big FF fan. This is our shirt. It's called Johnny is Fine, and it's Johnny Storm sitting in the cafe where the This Is Fine dog is on fire, and he says this is fine because he's a man who's on fire. He can sit in a cafe that's on fire, and he's absolutely fine. I think it's very funny, and that's our shirt that we made.
It's charming, it's cute, it looks great, and either of the designs that we just mentioned, as well as previous ones we've mentioned on the podcast, and a whole bunch we've never even brought up that we just think are cool, some of which we own ourselves, you can find our recommendations over at our storefront, which is at tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com, and when you shop through that link, even if you look around the entire site, anytime that you purchase something, it will directly support this podcast, and it will also support the artist who designed that work. So head on over to tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That is teepublic.fromsuperheroes.com. A link is in the show notes. And thank you very much, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you so much, TeePublic.
And now let's get into it. Let's talk all about Madam Web.
This blah bummer.
All right, we have seen Madam Web. My brain is swimming. There is so much to talk about here.
I feel like the web's in my head.
Do you have anywhere that you want to begin from?
It's so hard to know where to begin from. I don't really care about the beginning in Peru. I think we can skip that.
Okay.
I think God, Dakota Johnson's the worst actress I've ever seen. And right off the top is just indifferent to human life. And makes me not like her to such an incredible extent that it blows my mind.
No one in this movie, with the exception of Adam Scott, am I rooting for in any regard. I dislike every single human that exists on screen in this film.
I also hate everyone to the point where I was rooting for the bad guy for a bit because I'm like, he is trying to kill 3 people I don't like, and he's just one person I don't like. So ratio-wise,
the numbers.
I'm just looking at pure numbers.
You were playing the numbers, yeah.
For a good 40 minutes, I was like, I wouldn't mind if he killed these people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really be too upset if suddenly this was just a movie about Ezekiel Sims being not even particularly evil. He doesn't want to die. I don't know what he does on his off day.
So you're saying
I don't know what he's been doing the rest of the time.
So you're saying you would want more success in screen time for the character that barely can speak or exists on film in this, which we will unpack in a moment as well.
Ezekiel Sims is going to get his own little moment.
But Dakota Johnson cannot deliver a human emotion.
No, and it's weird because, I feel like at the end, it's purposeful. Because Madam Web kind of has always been this, flat, I see the future and therefore I have no emotions because nothing can surprise me. But why wouldn't she have emotions before that?
Yeah, there's no reason.
She's a paramedic. She should be so compassionate. She should be so empathetic. And she's driving this woman to the hospital on the pretense of saving her life because she's dying. And Adam Scott's in the back and he's like, I'm trying to do compressions to restart her heart and I can't because you're driving so bad. And she doesn't care.
She doesn't acknowledge it. She doesn't have
And then she starts joking about stuff, but completely flatly.
Yeah, in a flat way where a kid who turns out to be one of the lead characters of the movie cuts her off and she has to stop in an emergency where there's someone dying in the back and she's just like, huh. who flips people off anymore, slowly accelerates. And it's like, you're a bad driver and person, and I don't think you understand what's going on.
Yeah, do you understand the mortality of human life?
She does not. I am now at a point where I'm like, I don't know if Dakota Johnson has been in a stressful human situation.
Ooh, has she had life handed to her in such a way?
Because there's also a moment, I think it's like during the diner scene in the middle of the movie, she's driving a stolen cab, the kids are in the back, there's a killer afterwards, and she slams her hands on the steering wheel out of frustration.
I think I wrote that one down.
And I think her exact line was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And that was like, and I'm delivering it with more, it was slamming her hands on the steering wheel as softly in a way that like she's not even selling the physicality, and then just, oh my God, this is terrible. What?
She just hit a Spider-Man. Oh, sorry, you can't say Spider-Man. She hit a spider person. Guys, they literally cannot say Spider-Man.
Legally, they can't do any of the things that they want to do in this movie for some reason.
They call him a spider person the whole movie. This spider, clearly a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, she has no inflection. She's just hit a Spider-Man with a car who was trying to kill them all. These are not superheroes. These are 4 regular people. And she's and it's 3 seconds later in the text, and she goes, oh, whoa, that was terrible. And then she just looks at the girls and she says, like, you guys are impulsive and irresponsible. And then the girls all just look, yeah. It's, because I will say there's something happening here, because I refuse to believe that this many people that are professional actors can't act. Except Adam Scott.
Right.
Like, there's no way all 3, because all 3 of these girls are bad. I am just going to say that. They're not likable, they're not charming, they're not interesting. And neither is Dakota Johnson, that's 4. But there's no way that statistically you found 4 professional actors who are bad like this.
Well, this is what I'm so confused by.
Something went wrong.
From a direction standpoint, because there's part of me that's like, you were directed to play it flat. And this is something that we've seen in movies where it's like, when sometimes a director or a studio will want everyone to be the cool one. And this is something we see so often where it's like, what's my character? Your character's the cool one. What about my character? Also the cool one. Because they want everyone to be someone's favorite character. They want everyone to be the coolest person in the room. And when you make everyone cool, it actually makes everyone look like an idiot who does not understand the circumstances of a scenario. So like, we've seen this before in movies where it's like they're all on a helicopter that's going down, and 4 characters will be like, looks like the helicopter's going down, because they've been told to be the cool one. Mm-hmm. And another character who's been told to be the cool one by the studio is like, yep, helicopter's going down again. And no one...
And then the third person.
And it makes it seem like they're too dumb to understand mortality or consequences. And this is one where it's like, I want to say that's what happened to everyone, but there's no way that was the direction for some of these lines. Like for her slamming her hand against the steering wheel, it said in the script, slam your hands against the steering wheel in anger. And she's like, oh, I'm so angry. You have to know that that wasn't how to deliver that line. Even if you were directed to be like, deliver it flat, you have to, as a human actor, know that that's not how you say that series of words.
It's absolutely true. And like, I get what you're saying. Everyone's supposed to be someone's favorite, and that is the goal. But like, just in the by the book characterizations, some of these people aren't supposed to be the cool one. Like, I would say like Maddie, the girl with the skateboard, and the rich parents, was supposed to be the cool one. But Isabel, Anya and Julia, the other 2, like Julia is like a shy runaway, and Anya's a math nerd. They're not supposed to be cool. They're not supposed to be like, I guess it's fine, we almost died. They should definitely be like, I'm a math nerd and I'm a shy girl. We're freaking out. Yeah. But instead, I wish I could remember what we had reviewed recently, where we said everyone sounds like they're recording something else next door and they have to be quiet.
Yeah.
This whole movie, even outdoor scenes.
Yeah.
Even scenes in the forest. I don't know what was going on with the sound guy or with the actors, but literally everyone is talking at a level that they're worried they're going to get in trouble for being too loud.
There is a point where they first meet the villain, Ezekiel, the spider person, and he is on the subway platform snapping necks of police officers. And I mean like full on neck snapping, brutal murders, throwing them in front of trains. People are getting eviscerated in front of these 4 women. And Dakota Johnson just goes, oh my God, he's trying to kill us. And the 4 girls go, we gotta go. He's trying to kill us. no one raises their voice.
No one no one pitched above the green. If you've ever seen, like, right now we have like monitors for our audio, and if it goes above green, yellow's gonna be a little high, and red means it's gonna hurt someone's ears. Literally no one in this movie pitched above green.
The sound operators had the easiest time on this movie.
There was nothing to balance.
There was nothing everything was smooth. It was at minus 50 decibels, and they just had to beef it up for everything.
Except Adam Scott.
Except for Adam Scott.
But, like, that's what's crazy to me. That means it wasn't some weird audio thing they did afterwards, or, like, it was how they recorded the audio. Because he sounds normal, and, like, his voice is filling a room and echoing off a wall, and no one else does.
And he's also emoting and using his human face to make human reactions.
That's true, but that's an actor's choice. And I just don't understand how everyone's voice could just be so quiet compared to him. It's so weird. And yes, he's the only one who can act in this movie.
Which says that, like, there was no one on set yelling at them if they acted too good. You know what I mean? Like, because it's a
or if they did too bad.
It's a moment where, like, Adam Scott has, like, so the movie, one of the early on scenes is how she gets her powers, or how she discovers her powers, is she drowns in the river and is resuscitated back to life. So dying is kind of what makes her discover her powers. And she's brought back to life, and Adam Scott is above her, and Adam Scott is making, like, an exhausted and scared for his friend face where he's like, you were dead for 3 minutes. You're back. Like, you're back. What the heck? This has been a day. And it's just her being like, I was dead for 3 minutes. Nothing.
Literally,
but he's allowed to, which says that the director is not saying, like, play it quiet, everyone.
Yeah.
It's just everyone's fucking up except Adam Scott.
Everyone's fucking up except Adam Scott. It almost feels like everyone else had their rehearsals filmed. Like, everyone was like, this was the first read through. We haven't really, like, found its feet yet. And the director was like, we got it. And all the girls were probably like, wait, what? And Adam Scott's just so good that his first take is usable.
Yes. Yeah, he's just that good.
He's just that
good. And
he
is so good. I will say that in the scenes that he has with Dakota Johnson, this movie starts out in a way that is sometimes palatable, because he is good enough that it's like, you can have Dakota Johnson being flat, playing a flat character. It's not the greatest performance in the world, but sometimes you don't need to be a great performer if you're well cast. And there was moments where it's like, this is kind of a flat, unemotional, detached person whose partner, the other person who works the ambulance, is more animated and into things and kinder and more engaged. That dynamic works, and he works in a way that elevates her to a status that's functional when they're in scenes together. And, like, that is incredible that he is good enough that he's like, scenes with me work, even though you never change. I compensate for what it is that's going on here.
That is absolutely what's happened. It's almost like, yeah, he knows what this movie needs and the director didn't. And, like, I would say all these other girls are just too young to have, like, said anything.
Right.
They didn't really know. They're probably really good actors. I hear Sydney Sweeney is actually incredible on Euphoria. We don't watch it, but, like, so statistically, these girls can act.
Yeah.
They're just says that. But yeah, I feel like it feels like Adam Scott was the only one who was like, I've been doing this long enough and have enough sway that I'm just gonna actually, like, try something and do it. Mm-hmm. And you guys and everyone else was just like, the director said we got it.
We got it, I guess. And here's the other thing for those of you who didn't see it. Adam Scott is playing Uncle Ben.
This is the most subtle Easter egg in Marvel Cinematic history.
It is so subtle, it's dead on the table.
Yes, because most Easter eggs that are this big are like, we look straight down the camera and we're like, oh, Ben, this is your sister, whatever her name is, Parker. Oh, her son, Peter. And instead, I actually don't think they ever say his last name.
No, they don't even say Parker.
No, I think it may be on a name tag, and it's, like, listed on the IMDb that he's Ben Parker. They only ever call him Ben, and he's got a sister who's pregnant. And throughout the movie, they'll be like, he's excited to be an uncle. Ben is excited to be an uncle. He'll be an Uncle Ben. And then they have to play a game because they can't say Peter Parker the same way they can't say Spider-Man. And they're like, what are you going to name your kid? And she's like, guess. Guess?
Yeah, and they start saying names and balloon. And at one point, I think she's about to say Peter, and a balloon pops, and the audio cue covers what it is that she said. It is real Simpsons to be like, welcome, say hello to Mr. Black. Like,
if you couldn't say Mr. Black.
If you couldn't say Mr. Black. It is.
He is redacted from this film, but it is an Easter egg that is Peter Parker born at the end of this movie.
Redacted is the perfect word to describe the Easter eggs in this movie, where it's like they set up a few things and everyone or several people recognize that this movie was so bad that they can't even tie things together.
No.
It's the Sony Spider-Man villain verse, and they can't say Spider-Man or acknowledge other villains.
I mean, Morbius and Vulture and Venom didn't even show up.
Nothing.
This is a spoiler. There's no spoilers. There's no after credit scene. There's no connective tissue. At the end, it's just like, yeah, we're done here. This isn't going anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Which, like, when has a superhero movie ever admitted at the end that we're done here?
I'm flat out going to say that they didn't even do what they set out to do in this movie. The movie ends with them being like, a lot of the things from the trailer didn't happen, which we'll discuss later about the ending. But yeah, they can't say Uncle Ben, and Adam Scott's playing Uncle Ben. And I would say pretty good casting for Uncle Ben.
Oh, I mean, Adam Scott's good casting. Actually, not for like everything. He is not a universal.
Right,
but
right.
he is very, very good if you need a charming partner. I believe his charm would transfer into a Peter Parker.
I could see that.
Like, this is a man who would have raised Peter Parker to be, like, kind but slightly sarcastic and a little bit fun. Like, yeah, I feel like you did raise, obviously not his dad, but you raised him since he was quite little. So, like, yeah, this is a man who raised Peter Parker. Great casting, incredibly well done.
Yeah.
Except Adam Scott.
Except Adam Scott.
He's the exception.
Here's one thing I want to laser focus in on. I want to talk about the Pepsi can.
Before
Yeah.
you do that, because I know what you're going to say.
Certainly.
But what I want to preface what you're going to say about the Pepsi can is that this is how cheap, crummy, and dreadful this movie is. The scene you're about to be mad at, I was also mad at, and I thought you were mad for the same reason as me, and we were mad for two totally different reasons at this scene, and I think that's special.
Whoa. Did yours have anything to do with the Pepsi can?
No, the Pepsi can didn't bother me. It was totally unrelated.
Oh, I want to know. What was it?
No, you're starting on Pepsi.
Okay,
though.
I'll go through my Pepsi thoughts. So this movie,
you're right to be furious about the Pepsi.
for the
can.
listeners who didn't see this movie, I know that we're barely touching upon the plot. The plot
worry
barely
about
exists.
it.
Don't fucking worry about it.
about
We're
it.
gonna laser focus on a few wild card things. There is a scene at a barbecue. Where it is the day after the day after Madam Web died and was resuscitated.
And then said, "I'm fine.
And I'm
I
fine.
don't need to go to the hospital."
I'm gonna go to this baby shower, and it's a baby shower where all the women are inside and all the men are barbecuing with men, because that's what men do. Men don't care about the baby.
Mm-hmm.
They do not care about supporting this child in any way. Women wear sundresses and care about babies, and men care about meat outside. And she is Madam Web, and she likes meat outside, and everyone hates her for who she is and the decisions she's made in her life, because everyone in this movie sucks. And at one point, Adam Scott, and he sells even the product placement. And I'm not even mad at, like, sometimes product placement is awkward and clunky. There was a moment where she's like, "Can I get a drink?" And he hands her a Pepsi. She was like, she says something along the lines of, like, "I was expecting something like a heavier drink." And he's like, "You died 24 hours ago. Let's take it easy for a little bit." And I think that is a great way to product place Pepsi in a place where someone would normally be having a beer.
What are you going to have instead of a beer? Pepsi.
A Pepsi. And they hand her a Pepsi, and Dakota Johnson looks like she's never seen a soda before.
Not a can in her life.
She awkwardly is holding it with 4 fingers across 2 hands at an angle, and it's facing the camera, so the logo's always visible.
She's definitely been told to make the logo visible.
But she never opens it, and she's holding it for 3 scenes. I mean, they change locations, and she continues to hold. So for a moment, it's like, all right, you snuck your product placement in pretty good. Oh my God, she's still holding it 3 scenes later. It's still facing the camera. Dakota Johnson visibly has no idea what to do with this can of Pepsi.
It was, I will give it to you, this was infuriating. Because normally we're upset when people have coffee cups that are empty. And in this case, it was upsetting to see a Pepsi can unopened for such a long period of time. Because she didn't even crack it open.
No.
This was an unopened can, people, that she's just twisting around in her hands for 3 scenes. Visibly there, not drinking it. It's It's like no human has ever done that in their lives. That's what you do with a drink you don't want to drink. It made me not want to drink Pepsi in a way that like she was clearly like, ew, I'm not going to open this.
Like someone said, is Pepsi fine? And she went, no. Like,
and they still
but just
handed
held
her a
it.
Pepsi. And they still gave her a Pepsi.
What it actually feels like was that she showed up on set that day, and seconds before shooting, the director was like, by the way, for the next 3 scenes, it's a Pepsi commercial. And Dakota Johnson went, what? And the word action was already being yelled.
And you know what? This wasn't even a good Pepsi commercial.
I've
seen such incredible Pepsi commercials. The Britney Spears Beyonce Pepsi commercial with Enrique Iglesias. This movie wishes it was that.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. And then like the whole end sequence happens on a glowing Pepsi sign on the roof of a firework company.
Yeah, the Pepsi Cola over the firework company.
Yeah. The main villain of this movie is crushed to death with the S of a Pepsi.
Yeah, this was an Itchy and Scratchy film.
Yeah, sponsored by Pepsi.
Sponsored by Pepsi, yeah. Itchy and Scratchy go to the fireworks factory and they get crushed by big neon signs is definitely a thing that's happened.
But to circle back to the barbecue scene, you were mad about something else.
I was mad about what you've already touched on, which was the separation of the genders and how fucking cruel it was. Like, I know it was 2003, which... You know what? We actually did this way more back then. But Dakota Johnson earlier in the movie said, I don't want to go to the baby shower. I'm going to get roped into doing the baby shower stuff, and I want to go to the barbecue part. And Adam Scott says to her face, her best friend says, they won't rope you in. You can just stay in the barbecue and have a beer. And the second she gets there, a woman leaves the house and says, we're going to start the games. And Adam Scott looks at her and says, I guess you're getting roped in. I'm like, you fucking betraying coward that did not stand up for her and say she can stay at the barbecue if she wants to stay at the goddamn barbecue. She's not friends with any of these women.
No.
All the dudes are her friends because paramedics and firefighters are traditionally a male-dominated field. She doesn't know any of these people.
And she shouldn't, because they all seem like they absolutely suck.
Yeah.
They all suck to the point they're playing like a party game, a party favor game where it's like everyone put something in this jar about your mom. And her mom died in childbirth. She's like, I didn't put anything in. And everyone's like, you're a buzz. Like, everyone's mad at her for having a dead mom. Everyone's shitty to her. Everyone's in a dress and she's in like a leather coat. And everyone's like, you don't belong. It's like, her mom's dead. Could any of you be a human being for a second? You are all vicious. And I hate everyone.
I hate everyone. To be fair, Dakota Johnson has no emotions about her mom being dead. So it kind of feels okay to be vicious about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is basically told to shut up.
Yes.
Even though she didn't ask to be asked about her mom.
And would rather have a beer with the guys while barbecuing, but isn't allowed to because she's a girl. But she should be a girlier girl.
Her hair's long, so she has to be inside with the girls.
Miserable.
I would say it's lousy, poor, and a downer.
A downer. It is a downer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a downer.
It might be diddly, but I'm not sure what diddly means in this scenario.
Yeah.
I might need a dictionary.com to go with my thesaurus.
I was thinking diddly is like a nothing.
I thought diddly was just like
diddly squad is nothing.
Oh, diddly squad. I guess I have a Ned Flanders association with it, which makes it positive.
Oh, like a high diddly ho.
High diddly ho. Yeah, to me that's not a negative, but diddly squad is negative. I see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I do think for a movie with 4 female leads, this movie hates women.
Oh, this movie hates women. Can we get into the costumes a bit?
Please.
It's a weird combination of the costumes and every woman in this movie feels like she's never worn clothing before. Like, and their costumes are normal to an extent. Like Dakota Johnson's wearing a semi-long leather coat. One of the girls is in like a very fancy tracksuit. One of them's in a crop top and a jacket, and then one of them's in a schoolgirl uniform. And other than schoolgirl uniform, it's actually pretty regular clothes. But everyone moves like clearly like it's new clothes. They're not worn in. They're straight off the rack. But everyone moves like they've never moved before. Like they've never had clothing on. And no one's outfits match their characterization in any fucking way. And it absolutely infuriates me. Sydney Sweeney was the absolute worst. Like her costume, she didn't choose her costume. I don't know who did the costumes on this. So she's in a literal schoolgirl uniform. She's not coming from school. It's a weekend. It's a Saturday. So she's not coming from school. She's in this short skirt and like knee-high socks and then like a cute little like top. And she's got her hair in like little braids or whatever. And she is the shy one who doesn't stand up for herself. And also, she is currently running away from home. This was her running away from home outfit. A shy girl said, I'm going to put on my schoolgirl uniform and run away from home.
And I am going to say a spirit Halloween schoolgirl uniform.
Yes, not one you actually wear at school. A sexy schoolgirl.
A sexually derogatory schoolgirl uniform.
Yeah, and to the point where, and like, you know, if a girl wants to dress sexy, she can. But later they're at a diner and there's a bunch of cute boys and she kind of looks at them like she wants to hang out with them. And one of the other girls is like, tie your shirt up and make it like cuter. And she's like, no, I can't do that. Like, she's like, I can't show my belly. And I'm like, you have 98% of your legs out.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can't show your belly?
She is written like the button-down one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like that 2003 skirt would get you kicked out of school. Mm-hmm. I mean, it might get you kicked out of school in 2024 as well.
Yeah.
So, like, her costume doesn't make any sense. Who's the other girl? Maddie.
Yeah.
So Maddie is wildly rich, and everyone infers that by looking at her. And she is wearing a tracksuit and has a skateboard. And, like, Anya looks at her and she's like, well, what are you doing with daddy's money? You're going to pay for our dining? You're going to pay for our food at the diner? And they can tell she's rich. And she is, not like one of those, like, Blake Lively tracksuits. Like a normal sweatsuit.
Yeah.
And has a skateboard. And was committing a crime when they met her.
Yeah.
And she's wildly rich. And it's like, who dressed anyone?
Who dressed, and they're not dressed for their characters. Everyone's yelling their character attributes at them.
Oh, they love doing that.
Which is another one.
They fucking love that in this movie.
Where it's like Webb throws Skater Girl's cell phone out the window.
I love her calling her Webb. Keep it up.
Webb, I mean, that's her legal name, apparently.
Oh, that is her last name.
She's legally Webb.
I forgot her last name was Webb.
So Webb throws Skater Girl's cell phone. We'll take a second here. You thought I was being, you thought that I was being hyperbolic or facetious. Her name's Webb.
Her mom was studying spiders in the Amazon, and her last name was Webb.
Was Webb? Yeah. Yep. The name's Webb.
Okay, continue.
The name is Webb. Webb throws Skater Girl's cell phone out the window, and at that point, Mathlete just goes, "Why don't you just have Daddy buy you another one?" These women haven't met. There's no.
They weren't together on the subway. They were in separate seats. They're strangers.
And this kind of goes back to like this movie hates women. It feels like it is a movie from the 90s or earlier written by a man who truly has never met a woman, understood a woman, or loves women in any way.
Definitely hates teenage women.
But the general vibe of women is the 90s or earlier male portrayal of like, you know how women are catty shrews who don't support one another? Mm-hmm. And it's like, actually women are the exact opposite, and it's men who have never spoken to women as a real friend in their entire lives who thought that and wrote movies around that entire personality type. So it has that very male writing of like, yeah, women, the second they meet one another, all hate one another, treat each other miserably, point out their flaws, make sure that you feel like absolute dirt. And if they are forced to, women can occasionally get along, but women cannot be friends. They are just people who manipulate and hate. This is a movie with 4 female leads.
This is a movie with 4 female leads. I mean, 5 if you count Ezekiel's like hacker girl, who actually has quite a bit of screen time.
Well, because we'll get more.
Well, yeah. But like, yeah. So she's like in it quite a bit. But yeah, 4 female leads. The 3 teenagers all hate each other. Even at the end, I don't feel like they like each other. Mm-hmm. As we said, when Webb goes to the bridal party, none of the women like her.
Yeah.
They turn on her immediately because she's slightly different. There is no support here. There is no generous hand given in any way. And she also doesn't offer anything in return. She doesn't want to be there. It is very much a movie by like that hates women in a way that I wonder if the appeal was, I get to write a movie where these women die over and over again. I'm going to write a movie where these women get killed at least 8 times. And that's going to be my favorite part.
There is a lot of that, and the women do very little standing up for themselves.
Oh, yeah. They just stand there and take it every time.
Yeah.
Until the very last fight. Yeah.
See, I was going to say about the like Webb and no other women like her at the baby shower thing is that this feels like it's written by a very sad man trying to write the hacky stereotype of like, this isn't your usual girl.
She doesn't fit in. At
She's
the
not a
bridal
typical
party.
girl. There's a bridal party, but she'd rather get this, have a beer.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Does she also learn that from her brothers?
Oh, yeah. All the other ladies are having a martini, but she would like a normal man beer.
Oh my God, she knew how to cook a burger.
She.
Whoa, who is
Whoa.
this woman? She's basically a man.
Whoa, she's not your usual girl. Yeah, it feels a very dated, hacky. It should almost be comedy for how she is written. This movie just truly hates these women.
It truly does. Yeah, no, I agree. I think and it's weird that I think the costuming hates them because I haven't checked who the costumer is, but that is traditionally a female like field. Costuming. So like I'm also like, how did the director convince you to dress them this way?
Yeah.
In ways that they just like Dakota Johnson moves, like everyone moves like they're acting. And I know they're acting. I know they're acting.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But they're moving like they're acting. I don't mean just in fight scenes or whatever. I mean walking down the street. They're like, it's like when you like forget what to do with your hands in a photo or something. They're like, how do you move?
How do you move? What do I...
Can I get 2 mugs? It's
What do I
like
do?
the Jack Donaghy sketch in 30 Rock.
How do I hold a skateboard? Like, well, just hold it. What are we doing here? Yeah, there's so much to dislike about how they treat these characters.
So much. Should we get into Ezekiel Sims and what could possibly be happening with this character?
Please.
What happened here? What happened to this man's dialogue?
I am at a point now where I actually halfway through the movie, I was beginning to doubt that this was a human person and that this was like an AI thing where like no one actually acted this role.
Okay.
Because he doesn't say any of his lines where I'm like, was anyone here?
Oh, I mean, I thought he was there and then I figured this is what I think. I think originally he wanted to kill these women for an entirely different reason. And so every single line about the prophetic visions had to be changed, but they couldn't film it. So they just ADR'd it, and they show his assistant as every ADR line happens. So I think he was filmed quite a bit, and they couldn't use any of it because those weren't the lines they eventually used. I
do agree with that. I think that I think that they tried to completely rewrite this movie after it was filmed.
Yes,
and he had to,
they did.
And all of his acting is done in a voice booth. And we never see or very rarely see his lips move synchronized to the words that he's saying. To the point that they try to sell it a couple of times where they're like, he's talking to you in your mind. And I'm like, what? The scene in the diner where he's talking to Webb and he's saying shit, but his lips don't sync up. And then it like glitches out to be like, this is also your future vision dream. So the audio does not need to sync up to the video. Right?
That actually is kind of a clever way of covering that up. I'll give you that. Because in every other scene, they just had to show his assistant nodding while he said long expositions about 3 spider women who were going to murder him in the future.
Yeah. Or they digitally added shadows. So there are a couple of times where I can see there's like a 45-degree angle across his face where they made the bottom half of his face completely shadowed, but not in real lighting on set. You can tell it's digitally added, so you can't see that his lips aren't synchronized to his dialogue.
But you can also still see that his lips aren't synchronized to his dialogue. Because they were like, we have to show his face eventually. And the longest you see his face is he does a quiet entrance into an opera at one point, and he has no lines. And that might be the only reason I even know what this man looks like. Because when he's fighting Webb and the girls, he's always in his spider person costume. He's not a Spider-Man. He's always in his spider person costume. And then whenever he's doing exposition, they don't show him because they can't, or they shadow him up. So if he hadn't entered an opera, he could walk by me in the street and I'd be like, that's a stranger. I've never seen him before. He's definitely not an actor who was in Madam Web.
No, he's definitely not an actor who was in Madam Web. And the costume, a costume that I saw online described as, this looks like an episode of The Boys where they parody Spider-Man. It is just a cheap, like, parody of a Spider-Man costume.
It is. The boys' costumes look better than this.
They do look better than this.
The boys have great costumes. This was, like, you guys don't have a Weismart anywhere but our street. I feel like
a dollar store.
A dollar store. A Wish.
What? A Wish. You ordered Spider-Man's costume.
Want.
You ordered Venom's costume off Wish, and you got this.
And this is what you got. Yeah, just really muted colors. Doesn't pop.
And here's how bad it is. It's bad in the same way that Ezekiel as a character is bad. Because we're talking about how, like, you don't see his lips move to the dialogue he's saying. The costume, so the thing with the Spider-Man costume that they've worked on for so many movies and that, like, the MCU kind of got by adding finally, like, the eye mechanics for Tom's Spider-Man, where it's just like, how do we emote? And it's like, well, we need to emote, and the comic books emote, but how do we move the eyes? They finally figured it out. Deadpool figured it out. This is one where the jaw doesn't even move. The eyes don't move and the jaw doesn't move. So it's just an image of a static costume. And the stunt performer who's in there is not even saying gibberish. There's no stretch lines. There's no movement to the jaw. And he's like delivering a speech. But you can see that this man is not talking in any way at all.
No, the stuntman wasn't told what the lines were or to deliver any. It is an inferior, junky, synthetic Spider-Man that I will never, or Spider-Person.
Yeah. You've heard about the superior Spider-Man. You've heard about amazing Spider-Man. But have you heard about inferior, junky Spider-Man?
Inferior, junky, synthetic Spider-Man? Technically not a Spider-Man.
Legally not a Spider-Man. Yeah.
Legally not a Spider-Man.
Unbelievable.
So, like, I don't know what this guy's original storyline was, but he definitely wanted to kill these women for an entirely different reason.
And can I expand upon that thought for a moment?
Of course, expand away.
Because none of the plot of this movie happened. The inciting incident didn't happen. So the plot of this movie is that Ezekiel, this dude, was bitten by this crazy Amazon jungle spider that gives you spider powers. It's legally not the Spider-Man spider. It's a spider from a different area that gives you Spider-Man powers.
No radiation. All natural spider powers.
An all-natural spider
Organic.
power. Plus visions of the future. It's like spider sense, but for years ahead.
Yeah, it's long-term spider sense.
It's super long-term spider sense, basically. So he has this, and every night he's having these dreams that these three women steal his spider and kill him, which already makes no sense because he doesn't need the spider anymore. It's not like there's a plot line where it's like, I have to let it bite me daily to keep these powers up. He got it. He's done. There's no reason for him to, like, worry about where his spider goes.
I feel like there should be a plot line about that explains why he hasn't aged 30 years, and that's why the spider keeps biting him, but continue.
I agree that there could have been a plot to explain that, but there's no reason for him to need this spider, but he's mad that these kids steal his spider, and then he tries to kill them, and all of these kids who have superpowers then murder him.
Yeah, pretty viciously.
Pretty viciously.
Pretty, like, coldly.
And
they really learned from Madam Web.
That's his vision of the future. 3 kids with spider powers murder me, trying to steal my spider that gave me spider powers. So he wants to kill these 3 kids before they kill him. He finds them. He tries to kill them. Madam Web stops this guy. Madam Web kills this guy. And Madam Web's killing line is, you were worried about them. You should have been worried about me. It's like, but what was his visions then? These 3 kids never get powers for real in this movie. They never actually get spider powers at all. You see them in the trailers in their spider costumes. Those are just dream sequences. The 3 other leads of this movie who are spider people never are spider people. And the vision of Ezekiel is a false, made-up nothing. They never want his spider. They never take his spider.
They don't get powers from his spider.
And even if they did, they'd already had it when they come for the spider. So what the fuck is anything there?
You need the update booster shot. The booster shot.
None of it makes any sense.
None of it makes any sense.
The inciting incident and plot of this movie didn't, and not in a cool, like, time travel-y way to be like, I'm stopping that future before it ever happens. Just a, like, that didn't happen and whatever.
Yeah, because everything Madam Web sees is going to happen if she doesn't change things.
Right.
And he is trying to change things, but like he never gets another warning. He never gets an updated vision. Nothing ever happens. And also, why would they have gone after him? There's nothing. You apparently just living your life with spider powers in New York. From what I can tell, you're not actually doing anything.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. The only even inkling of sense you get is when Madam Web goes to Peru in the middle of this movie. There is a throwaway line that the Peruvian man says, which is, if you take the spider out of Peru, you will be cursed. And my only guess is the curse is that you see a fake vision of your death.
Maybe.
It's all I have. It's all I got. The curse was he saw a wrong vision so that he couldn't stop his own death.
And that is a type of story some things do, which is like the fake prophecy of like your classic Shakespearean of in your attempt to prevent this prophecy, you have forsaken yourself and caused the prophecy.
That's some real Macbeth shit.
The classic Macbeth self-fulfilling prophecy. That does happen and that works in movies, but not this one because they don't do it in any way.
No, there's like this movie, I actually will say the script is like pretty bad. But there is if you took this script and like changed it just like slightly, like slight edits, there's an okay movie here with better actors and better directors and stuff. Like there's some fun ideas every now and then. Like an even slightly fun actress who tries to climb a wall to see if she has sticky powers and falls down would be a wonderfully charming scene. Mm-hmm. And Dakota Johnson sells nothing about a scene where she tries to see if she has spider powers and falls down really hard. It wasn't funny, but it wasn't not funny, and it wasn't sad, and it wasn't charming. It was just like, yeah, she fell down now.
Yep.
But in a different movie, that's a great scene.
It was factual.
Yes. If you were like, what is a thing that happened in Madam Web? Like, well, at one point she tried to climb a wall and she couldn't.
And she didn't.
And she failed.
And I've told you everything you need to know about that scene. That scene was factual.
And cut. We got it.
Yep. And that's it. That is the whole thing. But because this whole prophecy isn't real, the girls never get their powers and never do anything in this movie.
No, they like try to help Madam Web really quickly.
For a moment,
but then all three are left dangling in the exact same precarious position at different points around her. And then she makes 3 versions of herself that are physically able to interact with the world.
As a random dude in Peru prophesized, you can do more than just see time. You can be different places if you choose. He says that at one point.
He says that, and then she's like, "Oh, great! There's going to be 4 of me. Now I'm also multiple man. I'm multiple man, and I'm Madam Web. I'm multiple Web."
My favorite thing about that 30 seconds where the girls try to be involved in the plot in any way is the skateboarder girl. It is like, we've established one character trait for her. She is a skateboarder. And she picks up a random piece of metal and like throws it under her feet and goes to like 50-50 grind down like the Pepsi sign to fight this dude.
What a cool sentence that is.
And it sounds cool. He's 5 feet away. Like it is, she didn't need to cover that distance that way. And because of the amount of physical movement she has to do and the amount of stunt people involved, it involves 30 close-ups for what is 5 seconds of real time. So there's so many edits, and it's like you could have just walked over and pushed them. And instead you got a piece of metal and then did a skateboard grind with it. Or
you gotta put him further away so I can feel like you gained momentum and actually could have struck him.
Anything.
You gotta watch the Legolas scene in Two Towers where he skateboards down the wall, and it's actually dope.
More accurate. More accurate for
everyone. Just go watch some
fantasy
Legolas
skateboarding.
scenes. Yeah.
Just go do that. The moment as well where she turns into 4 of herself. This is the one where I was like, "Fuck you, you don't." There's
this one. This is near the end of the movie.
There's a couple parts. There's a couple parts of the movie that make me say "fuck you, you don't." In terms of like the general canon of Spider-Man, is that she hears the line of the guy from Peru say to her something that we have not seen on camera yet this movie. She hears the guy from Peru say, like, when you need to, you'll do more than see time. You can be multiple places. And then he says, with great responsibility comes great power. And that's her big, I can do this moment, which is a flip-flop of the Spider-Man line, unmotivated from nobody, in her head for no reason, and she delivers nothing. She also, in performance-wise, does not react as though she has been inspired. It is just all factual. A voice says a thing, things happen, and the scene is over. That is the entire breakdown.
With great responsibility comes great power. It's so funny. It's like if you are a nerd, you have a lot of power. Like if you're someone who like takes responsibility, you have power. Like if you pay your taxes on time, I have power. Like what?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
That like. And
you can tell they think they're really clever. This is a real, like, where did you learn that name? Both of our moms are named Martha kind of moment for me. Like, we took the classic line and we flipsy-doodled it.
But if you flip it, it doesn't mean anything. As a sentence structure, and also even in the story of this character, it doesn't mean anything.
No, because she was already being really responsible. She was already trying to save these girls.
She didn't get her powers because she is a responsible paramedic. She got her powers because her mom researched spiders, got shot, and then was bit. She didn't get powers because she's a responsible person. It feels like I described it as, I wrote down that this movie is, I know that this is not a word. It's grammatically incorrect and it doesn't make sense. But this movie is the worstest hits of superhero movies. Where it's like, let's do the Spider-Man thing, but flip-flop it. What if your mother was bitten during childbirth of Blade, but less motivated and dramatic? You know, like what if you were on your own kind of in that way? What if the Amazon jungle of Morb, but somehow worse than Morb?
What about the found family of Guardians of the Galaxy, but nobody likes each other in a really annoying way?
And we never acknowledge what your foster homes were like because we don't want to get too real. What about the surveillance state of was it Batman Begins or Dark Knights that had we tapped into all the cell phones?
I was gonna say Winter Soldier, but I think it's Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. What about the I tapped into everyone's CCTVs and cell phone surveillance state scare of the Dark Knight, but not motivated. It's the worstest hits of every
it's
superhero movie.
It's the worstest hits. I will. You know what? I got one for you as well. Like I agree on everything you've said. Everything cool happens in a dream sequence in the Snyder-esque way that the Batman v Superman was like, oh, this was really cool. Dream sequence. The Flash came back in time. It was a dream sequence. Yeah, they only have their costumes in dream sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They never have these costumes.
They never have these costumes. Yeah, the worstest hits, not on thesaurus.com, but I'm going to write it.
The worstest? The worstest.
The worstest. I'm writing it in. I'm crossing it off.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
also, this movie could be unacceptable.
It is.
It is.
And it is unacceptable. And then the other piece of Spider-Man Legacy that I'm like, fuck you, you don't, is as the movie is wrapping up, it's ending. Webb has been injured, which let's just talk about that in a second. But so far, the three teenagers have not gotten their powers or costumes or done anything. Their superhero origin story does not exist. It was a thought and a dream, and it's nothing. And Madam Web is like, at some point you'll do something. And that's the end of the movie. At some point you'll do something. And she thinks about a future where maybe these kids do stuff that is exciting. She thinks, the movie ends with her thinking of what could be a good story, maybe.
And also, like, suddenly she's animated and excited. She's like, you are going to have an astounding future. You're going to do incredible things. Like, she's actually, like, she definitely did a different day in a sound booth for this session because she actually, like, was excited and said things. She sold me on the next movie that will never exist. But like, she's like, can you imagine if we'd made that? Can you imagine if we'd made that cool movie I just described?
And then they have the nerve to play the Danny Elfman score from the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. And it's like, you didn't earn this.
No.
You didn't fucking earn this. Sony, if you didn't have the guts to say Uncle Ben, you didn't have the guts to say May. Because at one point, Ben's like, I'm dating someone. And then they just sit in shit for 15 seconds.
Dakota Johnson asks her name and he just doesn't say anything.
They can't say May. They can't say Parker. They can't say Peter. They can't say Spider-Man.
And you're going to play
the Danny Elfman. And also, no one is a spider person at any point in this movie.
No, her legal name is Webb. That's a legal name.
And none of the teens become Spider Women. And you're going to play the Danny Elfman Spider-Man score. Go absolutely fuck yourself. Absolutely fuck yourself.
100% agree. But it's also one of those endings, and this is just like, which X-Men movie was it? It wasn't First Class, it was the one after that. Where like, it's the end of the movie, it's the last 5 seconds, and everyone got their costumes, all the X-Men. Their their comic accurate costumes, and then you never get to see them wear those costumes in the actual movies. So this movie is very similar. Like at the very end, she gets the goggles and the ocean spray costume.
The ocean spray costume.
You said that aloud. You said, did she ever wear the ocean spray costume as we left the theater?
For those of you who don't know, like months before this movie came out, there's like a leak of what her costume looks like because like there was a promotional bottle of ocean spray, and like cranberry juice or something.
And it came out before the poster was released.
Yeah, it was like an overseas product, and it came out before the poster and trailer, and it is her in her Madam Web costume, which we see for exactly 1 second in this movie. And that says a lot about how this movie was made, that like at some point someone was like, does she wear this and can we show this? And it was like, I don't know, just fucking tell Ocean Spray yes and
someone
send it out.
Someone send them the JPEG.
Say yes, send them the JPEG and print the Ocean Spray bottles. We don't care.
I have some questions about the end. What happened to her eyes and legs?
Yeah, right?
What happened to her eyes and legs?
Yes.
Because suddenly she's blind and like she's got like these glasses and she's got bandages and her eyes look like crazy. They've got like webs in them or something. And I'm like, a firework didn't hit your face.
It glanced her forehead as she was underwater.
Did it?
It did show that like above her left eye was, I'm going to say, a gentle, probably not even requiring stitches cut. So there was, and she held her head like, and that was the total of damage. And then we cut to her in her apartment later recovering, and she's in a wheelchair and blind.
She's in a that's two huge injuries.
Yeah.
And she just hit the water like normal.
Yeah.
And like, it wasn't a very tall building.
No.
It was a 2-story building. Yep. She fell further from the bridge in a car. And also, I think Adam Scott jumped off a bridge to save her life, and they didn't even bother to film that.
Yeah.
That's cool as hell.
It's cool as hell.
That's Peter Parker's dad.
Except Adam Scott. Everything except Adam Scott.
Yeah. So like, suddenly she's just wildly injured.
Yeah.
And it's where did any of this come? Just so it'll match the comics / cartoon show?
This is something where there is no understanding of what a comic book is anywhere from anyone who made this movie.
No, they were just like, in the end, she has to wear glasses and be in a wheelchair. But we didn't write in that she got hurt that way. Well, she just has to be in them.
It is very much a 90s comic book movie that somehow was made in 2024.
Yeah.
It does not make sense. I was saying off mic that it's like this movie takes place in 2003, which is the year Sony Pictures wants it to be. Sony Pictures are basically living in the Matrix, where they think the peak of human society was the late 90s, and they do not want to. They just want us in a loop of placidity of the late 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can't deal with anything else.
Well, this movie's set in 2003 for no reason at all. Like, it doesn't have cool 2003 vibes. They try to play Beyonce and Britney Spears songs and somehow fail to make that enjoyable. Two artists I love.
Yeah.
Because they also chose, like, the flattest Britney Spears song, like Toxic, which is just, like, she never, like, has any emotion in that song, and it kind of matches Madam Web perfectly in that way.
Yeah, and was it Beyonce? I thought it was like a Pussycat Dolls song or something.
Pussycat Dolls weren't around yet. Oh, it was Bitch.
Was it? Okay.
I'm a bitch, I'm a
Oh, no,
lover.
I'm thinking of a different one. It was before Toxic, and it was one where I'm like, why is the needle dropping now? Because it was these 3 teens walking through the woods, unsexily, to nowhere not being sexy. And I forget what song it was.
Oh, it was some kind of sexy song.
But it was a sexy song where it was like, girls, we're sexy. Sexing it up. It's sexy time. I'm making up a song, obviously, right now because I blanked as to what it was. But I'm like, these three teens are alone in the woods. Why are we dropping, like, sexy club music right now?
And, like, mostly they're like, we want to go to a diner. Like, the least sexy restaurants that we have.
Yeah. Huh?
There's oh my god, I have so many more notes I want to get.
Please,
to.
I'm out. So hammer at
Okay.
me. Hammer at me. Come on.
I am mad on behalf of paramedics for this film because this film says that
911. What's your emergency?
911. What's your emergency? This is a paramedic. Literally, the only thing we can do is CPR.
Yeah.
They do CPR in this movie 6 times.
Yeah.
Do you know how many more things a paramedic does than just CPR? And that's all. And they're like, it's magic. It'll restart your heart no matter what. Madam Web gets CPR'd twice. They CPR the woman in the ambulance back to life. Some random dude at the fireworks factory comes back to life. Oh, it doesn't work on the captain who gets hit in the ambulance.
Yeah.
That's the only time CPR doesn't work.
Yep. And then we're fresh out ideas.
Madam Web tells these girls that if you're poisoned, CPR will counteract it and bring you back to life.
You have reminded me of one of my other favorite worst lines of this movie, which is that Ezekiel has the power to poison you with touch. And he has to get an NSA agent's thing for the Dark Knight Returns surveillance machine. And he has sex with her and tells her about his dream and grabs her. And she goes, "Are you poisoning me right now?" There is no reason for this woman to assume that who
has poison hands?
A man touched your arm, and you have a level of proprioception of your body that you're like, I'm being poisoned currently. I know what poison feels like, and even though I have never known a human being to be able to do this via touch and thought, he is. That other line. But yes, CPR also cures poisoning.
Because she says that aloud, and it's one of those things where this makes it very clear this movie's poorly written, because the CPR does save her later, but no one gets poisoned again after this point in this film.
Yeah.
Which is not how you seed things in a film. If you're going to say, do the CPR if I get poisoned, you need to get poisoned later, and someone needs to get poisoned later and need CPR.
I am also going to say this as a man who has done several first aid courses. They are also doing incredibly poor CPR. Literally a 1-hour online course would have taught any of these performers to do better CPR, which wouldn't even be that big of a problem because it's like, shocker, people in movies don't actually know how to do the job that they're pretending to do. That happens, whatever. But there is a whole scene where it is Webb and the teens in a motel. And she's like, let me show you how to do CPR.
She's a paramedic.
An instructional CPR scene, which is load bearing. And she's like, you just kind of like do it like this. You push. And then the teens do it. And she goes, yeah. And then the teen goes, wow, you're a really great instructor. She has done nothing other than tell them that CPR is the thing where you push. And there has been no other information whatsoever. None.
No breaths that you give, no how much you push, no warning that you will break the person's ribs.
Yep.
Absolutely you will. Madam Webb should have had her ribs broken twice in this film.
No basic stuff like actually before you perform CPR, check the abdomen that there's no internal bleeding or anything that you are going to make worse that is actually what's causing the unconsciousness. No check for breath. No, while one of you is pumping, the other one should be calling 911 and conveying the information and details to get someone on the scene as soon as possible. And on top of that, all of the teens are pushing with their arms, which is like a tricep push down. Stiff arm, full body weight is how you're supposed to do it. So it's like she's provided no feedback or instruction.
And that's especially bad because when you're doing it as an actor, you do have to fake it.
Yeah, because you can't break another actor's ribs.
But the teaching scene, they're practicing on a pillow.
Yeah, yep.
So practicing on a pillow, you should actually be teaching them how to do CPR.
Yep.
So that.
Lot of problems there. Yes, it is insulting to paramedics.
They do more than just CPR, and CPR is not a magical thing that can counteract a poison in your body.
No, doesn't counteract poisoning.
What was the other thing? Oh, it was very much along the lines of the line you just had about, are you poisoning me? Just like, there's so many lines in this movie that are just straight at the camera, like, we don't think you're going to understand what's happening unless we say it. So the poisoning line is very much that. Ezekiel just straight up explaining his dream, very much that. My other favorite line of like, we don't think you get it is when the pigeon dies in the dream and then she opens the window and she's like, this isn't going to change anything. And then the pigeon comes in and it doesn't die. And she says aloud, I guess you don't have to die.
I guess this pigeon's alive now. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. That's how this movie's working.
This isn't even like a flashback to like, because sometimes a movie will be like, do you remember a scene 30 minutes ago? And it's a little insulting because it's like, it was 30 minutes ago, I do. This is the same scene.
This is the same scene.
This is the same scene.
Like 5 seconds ago, we saw the pigeon die. So yes, we have an audience, without you saying that, would have figured out, oh, you can change things from the visions.
Yeah.
We're smart people.
We're smart people. We would have caught up. Why did you make such bold leaps in some ways and no assumptions in others?
Why did you make such a rough, sad movie?
Nice.
Why did you do this to us?
The fact as well, when they get the Dark Knight surveillance machine, and he's got his assistant, Ezekiel, and he's like, I need to find these girls who I've been having dreams about. And his assistant, we don't really get a backstory for, is just like, okay, so here are the images of the girls based on the descriptions of your dreams, which is an insane sentence. Even if you got a sketch artist or whatever to involve, it is like a 3D Unreal Engine video game-esque perfect video game create a character of what they exactly look like in their superhero costumes. Mm-hmm. And she's like, and from that we extrapolated this. And it removes their masks and goggles. And it's like, you extrapolated what someone would look like under a mask in a dream. And then we also subtracted 10 years. So you had a computer program. You are telling me that a man verbally described his dream where people in masks kill him. You drew the person in a mask, extrapolated what they look like under the mask, and then subtracted 10 years, and then found them.
Subtracted 10 years, and then the computer was like, oh yeah, we got it. Mm-hmm. Also,
we're the NSA, we got it.
Also, it's 2003. These images should look like N64 avatars. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, mm-hmm. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. You didn't even set it in an unnamed year. You told us to our faces. It's 2003.
And this
means that like you know who Batman is. Because we took this actual photo of Batman, and then we just erased the mask, and it was Bruce Wayne!
And also changed the age of the person.
And we de-aged him.
And time traveled. And also it was a dream. It was a dream. And they never had those powers, and in fact never end up looking like that in any regard. So also he's imagining a whole thing that doesn't exist.
He imagined all of it.
He imagined 100% of it. And the 2003-ness of it all. This is what really frustrates me, where it's like, what do you want? I want to shake the people who made this and be like, what did you want? Because it's like, it's 2003. It's the year 2003, the best year. This movie's set in the year 2003.
Don't even worry about it.
Also, for plot reasons, we actually do need a bunch of technology from the future for any of this to work. So I guess he, in one random scene, fucks and poisons a woman who works for the NSA and has a bunch of future technology? But it's the year 2003. And at that point, I'm so mad because I'm like, you didn't need to do this then. You didn't need to set it in 2000. If you didn't like the movie being in 2003, you could have just not had the movie in the year 2003.
Or you could have just not said what year it is. You could have just been like, here's a movie. Instead, you were like, it's 2003. But, like, it's not connected to the other movies, so it doesn't matter what year it is. Yeah. Morbius isn't here. Vulture's not here. Venom's not here. It could be any year you want. if people don't have cell phones, I don't go, oh wait, you can't have technology.
Yeah.
I like when people don't have cell phones. It makes the movies move better. There's the only reason I can think of they wanted it to be 2003 so bad, and this is a dumb reason, is because they put the Peter Parker link in.
They want the Ben thing.
They wanted Peter to be 20 in 2024.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, what if we get Spider-Man back, though? We're Sony. We could get him. And then he could meet these girls in 20 years.
And it's like, if you want to do that, that's also fine. In that scenario, set a movie in 2003 that's being in 2003, but don't have your villain need a bunch of shit from 2024.
Yeah, he's got fucking future visions. Just let him be able to also Madam Web, but not as well.
Yeah. Maybe he could just see them buying a train ticket.
And they're all together. And he's like, that's fucking them.
Easy stuff.
Easy stuff.
So yeah, they couldn't decide what year they wanted to be in.
I think my last point is just the absolutely baffling plot point of Madam Web being wanted for kidnapping.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot because they kind of give up on that plot point.
This was insane. Like she saves the three girls' lives, and at one point, very, very briefly, one of them yells out to a cop, "Hey, this woman's harassing us," I think she said, or trying to take us somewhere. And these are three girls who are the exact same size as Dakota Johnson. If Dakota Johnson wanted to make these three women do something with no weapons, she could not.
She couldn't. Yep.
They're all the same size.
Yep.
She is not overpowering anyone. But one of them yells this half-heartedly, and the cops are like, "Get her! Arrest her!" And then within 3 minutes on the police radio, it's like, "We're looking for Dakota Johnson for a kidnapping of three girls. We don't know their names. We don't know their ages. Haven't talked to their parents. We have no eyewitnesses to the fact because all the cops were murdered who saw this happen."
And they're not looking for a woman for the murder of 20 police officers.
No, they want the kidnapping of three girls who they have no idea if they were just fucking around. Because Skateboard Girl just fucks with the cops all the time.
Yeah.
So she should have 18 APBs out on her.
Yeah.
And then they have to hide at a hotel because the cops are looking for her. And also Dakota Johnson knows so many cops. She's a paramedic who must know a million police officers and could just be like, "No, they're teens. They're just fucking around.
Yeah. Yep.
Please keep this guy from killing them."
I also forgot the other implication of Skateboard Teen.
Okay.
Because the only thing that I think that references anything of Marvel Comics or any other Marvel anything in this is the fact that the Daily Bugle exists.
Oh, I didn't notice the Daily Bugle existed.
That's what the person on the subway is reading.
Oh, okay.
And then also in the diner, a guy is reading the Daily Bugle and it says 3 teens kidnapped. And that's all it says. And he calls the police because there's 3 teens in the diner, which is like, yeah, you know how New Yorkers never mind their own business and would figure that out for some dumb reason. But also, when the news gets out that 3 teens have been kidnapped, Skateboard Teen says, I can actually solve this. I just need to call my Uncle Jonah.
Oh, did she say that?
And that's when her phone gets thrown out the window.
Okay.
So I'm like, you're supposed to be J. Jonah Jameson's niece-ish. And again, in that way where it's like, we're not legally allowed to say that. We are lucky that we were able to say Jonah and Ben. We couldn't even say May or Parker, but they said Jonah and the Daily Bugle.
Okay. I didn't catch that, but I assume yes.
So the
Easter eggs in this are so wildly subtle just because of lack of property ownership.
Yeah, lack of absolutely anything. That's J. Jonah Jameson's niece?
Niece? Sure.
I guess, sure.
I don't know.
Why not?
It's all yeah. So her wanting for kidnapping this whole time is just like.
Because the guy in that diner calls the cops to be like, the 3 teens who were kidnapped were here, and the cops never arrive. That never becomes plot relevant.
Well, no, Ezekiel
intercepts it. You're right.
Withdrawn. It was like the only non-80-yard line he had.
Withdrawn.
It was actually the only time I thought this actor spoke.
Yeah, withdrawn.
So that is withdrawn. But also the idea that he's like this big trucker guy, that this trucker wouldn't go up to them and be like, "Are you the 3 girls that were kidnapped?"
Yeah.
Because they're just loosey-goosey in the diner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no reason to assume that.
Also, I hated the diner scene.
It
miserable. It was so long. It was so annoying. Nothing happens for 15 minutes.
For no reason at all, they give a bunch of teen boys a table dance.
Ugh. This movie hates women.
Hates women.
Hates them.
Yeah, in a diner that is like has a bunch of other people in it, and no adult or employee is like, stop table dancing for the boys.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here, all of you.
And also, this was a small thing that annoyed me. There was no food on the table. And, like, that's how you would have to dance on a table. But, like, none of the boys had a drink or a meal.
Yeah. So just a bunch of loitering boys started just ruining this diner.
They would have been kicked out so fast.
So fast. And a diner that had a bunch of other customers.
Bunch of other customers.
Yeah.
Oh, my very, very last quick thing. They left that fire going in the woods.
They did also do that.
That's with
Also
great irresponsibility comes no power.
Irresponsible. Wildly irresponsible.
I can't believe they didn't have just a straightforward line about how we're so irresponsible. We left that fire going in the woods.
Hey, they also took down the villain by setting fire to the Pepsi Cola fireworks factory. So who knows what anything is?
Well, it's almost like it's garbage and gross.
There we go. Well, let's go in. Let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now, with so many options, now that we've discussed everything about this, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, wherever you might be getting your podcasts.
Wherever you are listening to this right now, you can probably leave us a 5-star review. On all the ones Andrew listed, you can leave us leave us 5 stars, and sometimes you can leave a review. There's usually a 5-star option, though. We love that.
Click around. It makes us happy.
Wherever you are, tell people you like us.
Tell people that you like us. It does help us move up the charts. It helps us get discovered by a new audience. I know it seems like a thing that every podcast asks you to do. The reason podcasts ask you to do it is that because when those are left, it is shown to new people. That's how we find new audience, and then new audience sees it. They're likely to look at the reviews. It makes it more likely that they'll actually give us a try and hit subscribe. So it's a free way to make a difference in our life. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on our Patreon page. Patreon is a way that you can do monthly support of the podcast or online entertainers that you love. Hopefully we are one of those. And depending on what level is in your budget, you'll get cool bonuses as well. So for example, you can do as little as $1, as much as you can afford. At the $3 level, you get the bonus of these episodes early and ad-free as well, which is very nice. And then at the $10 level, you get an additional bonus episode of this podcast every single month. This month, because we've been building up to the release of Dune Part 2, we were looking at the work of Denis Villeneuve, and we did Sicario on the Patreon bonus episode. A very tense and interesting movie.
Very different from this film.
Very different. And I am a big fan of Villeneuve, and I feel like Diana's coming around as well.
I really am.
Yeah,
We've seen a lot more of his stuff now.
Shit slaps. But we talk about that over on the Patreon exclusive episode. It's available right now. And when you sign up at that level, you get immediate access to the full back catalog. So you've got lots of episodes to catch up on. And if your budget or life changes at any given point, you can always cancel or change your level on any given month. Check out the different options over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. Now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, Diana, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything?
Oh, fuck it. Fuck this movie. You can't fix this movie. Literally the only way to make this movie better. I'm sorry that I don't have a real change, guys. It is just genuinely so imperfect of a film that there's no way to make it perfect. The only change I can give, and this is the reason that I actually think Morbius is the better of the two very, very bad movies. My only change would be way more Adam Scott. Because Morbius is the better movie of these two. Because I don't know how these very, very bad movies always have one actor who's crushing it and gets the tone and is very, very good. There's only ever one. And in Morbius, it's Matt Smith.
Yeah.
But Matt Smith has a huge role.
Yes.
He's the villain. He gets a lot of scenes. He's in the movie quite a bit. And he's awesome. Morbius is a very, very bad movie. But Matt Smith is really, really good in it. But he's in a lot of it. In this movie, Adam Scott's the only one who's really, really good. And he's in about 10 minutes of the movie. So really, Adam Scott's just there like the whole time. And then like, he does elevate every scene. I think the girls would act better if he was there. I think Dakota Johnson's a better actor in scenes with him. He's going to bring it. all up. And maybe they even say his last name. Maybe they even mention that he's Ben Parker. Who knows? I'm crazy. I got wild ideas. But that's the only redeemable change you can make, is to just say more Adam Scott in this and just stop hating women. If this movie didn't hate women and had more Adam Scott, sure, maybe it's passable.
Yeah.
So those are my changes. Andrew, what would you possibly change in Madam Web?
I'm pretty much the exact same thing as you.
Yeah.
I was going to say that this movie just does not have the three teens. It is a buddy adventure comedy that is Dakota Johnson and Adam Scott. It is about Webb and Ben, who are paramedics. And Ezekiel is an enemy who has been leaving a series of injured and killed people in his path that they have been they've been in the wake of. So it's like Ezekiel did some shit that caused that fire that killed their captain. Like, Ezekiel's been doing bad shit, and they've been dealing with the cleanup of it.
Oh, he's an actual villain.
He's an actual villain who's been doing stuff.
Crazy. Babe, that's crazy.
But if we get rid of the teens, then it's like Ezekiel can be doing some villainous shit. They're in the wake of it. And now that she's starting to see the future, she can see the problems before that they occur and is getting there. And Adam Scott's getting roped up and drawn into it. Kind of much like how, like, you know, the first Venom movie, it's like there's a lot of hit and miss there. A lot of it is kind of Tom Hardy having fun with that Venom character, but it's just by boiling it down and be like, it's him and Michelle Williams. He's going way overboard, and she's kind of playing it straight. This is the exact same thing, except the roles are reversed for the powers, where it's like we have Webb playing it straight, and we have the character of Ben who's going overboard and acting big. That's just a fun movie. That's all you need is two paramedics, one of whom can see the future and the other whom is comedically talented. They are dealing with the fact that there's a bunch of dead and injured people around, and they wished that wasn't happening.
You're selling me. You're
That's
selling me
movie.
like hell on this movie. No,
Yeah.
I think that's a great movie. I'll watch that. Oh, sorry, I have one more change.
Oh.
There is an Eminem tie-in song.
We do need a tie.
The fact that there's no tie-in song?
If you're going to make a 2003 movie set in 2003 that is cheesy and dated and does not work, you've got to at least do it. Like, what is Macy Gray doing? Call her up.
You got to get a 2003 star. You have Britney in this. Britney would have written you a Madam Web song.
Yes. Yeah. Frankly, get Danny Elfman's Spider-Man score out of here and do the Nickelback song from the Spider-Man soundtrack. I want her to turn on the radio and be like, the hero that saves us, watch as he takes them away. Do you think the hero's the Green Goblin, Nickelback?
Oh, throwback to our episode about Spider-Man.
So yeah, I'm 100,000 million % it needs a tie-in song. Yep. Well, that's going to do it for us. That is our episode on Madam Web. Thank you all very much for listening and coming with us on this ride. Next week, we are going to be back on the podcast, building up to the release of Dune, talking about more Denis Villeneuve films. We were talking about Arrival.
Arrival. We've already recorded this episode. It's a banger.
Real good episode.
It's a really good episode. A lot of fun thought processes.
Good episode, good flick. Check out both the movie and our episode next week talking about Arrival. In the meantime, you can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. I am at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Instagram, Pics of Diana, and Threads, Pics of Diana. On Tumblr, I am Words of Diana. Sorry, I was laughing. Andrew's voice got wildly low.
I will get down here. Don't worry about it. And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes. And if you want to check out all the podcasts and everything that our network has to offer, be sure to check out FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.